Welcome to Fast Track Gains. I'm here to help you accelerate your gains. This is the fourth episode of my fifth series, Fat Loss. As we have established the principles, introduced all the terminologies, and analyzed all the tools in the last three episodes, we now have a solid theoretical knowledge base for you to embark on your own fat loss journey. However, without some practical calculations as reference, your fat loss plan may look very good on paper, but almost impossible to execute in reality. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about some key calculations you have to be aware of. Now, bear in mind, calculations will vary depending on individual cases. So, for all the calculations that I'm about to mention in this episode, please take them as a rule of thumb instead of hard rules. But before I start, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. And without further ado, it's time to show you all the practical calculations you need to consider when you make your own fat loss plans. Calculation 1. How much body fat can I lose? There is an old joke in the fitness industry. Every person that approaches a personal trainer for fat loss always claims that they only have 20 pounds to lose. And after that, they will be happy. Why is a joke? There's an element of truth in this joke. On average, you should not expect the amount of fat loss to be more than 10% of your current body weight at any single time, because the body strives to maintain homeostasis, and any drastic change imposed on the body will be fought back with consequences. And 10% body weight reduction is generally the biggest stretch you can get with the body's tolerance. So for a guy that is 200 pounds, which is a fairly average body weight for a lot of people, 20 pounds is 10% of their body weight and the maximum amount of body fat they can lose at any single time. You see, the old joke can be true in many instances. Now, this does not mean that you cannot lose 20%, 30%, or even 40% of your body weight in aggregate. However, it does mean that if you want to lose more than 10% of your current body weight, you better plan your fat loss in phases and take some diet breaks during different phases in order to deactivate your body's survival mechanisms. Still remember the follow-up study on the Biggest Loser participants. In the game of fat loss, it is not a good idea to be fast and furious. Calculation 2. How fast should I lose body fat? How fast should you lose body fat is like how fast you should be driving. Driving at 100 kilometers per hour is definitely better than speeding at 200 kilometers per hour in 100 kilometer speed zones. But driving at 20 kilometers per hour is rarely better than driving at 90 kilometers per hour in the same speed zone. Sure, you will not incur any speeding ticket, but you will waste a lot of time and will cause a lot of unnecessary troubles for many other drivers. The same logic applies to fat loss. You do not want to lose 10 pounds of body weight in a week, but losing 50 grams of body fat is rarely better than losing 1 pound of body fat in a week. Sure, you will not suffer from any consequences, but you will waste a lot of time and it will make it extremely difficult for yourself to track your fat loss progress. For fat loss, although the speed limit may vary depending on your body size, it is usually between 1 to 2 pounds or 0.1 to 1% of your body weight in a week. 1 pound or 0.5% of your body weight in a week is the lower speed limit. As fat loss is purely based on the laws of thermodynamics, 1 pound of fat loss in a week translates into about a daily 500 caloric deficit. And this is still an achievable target for even smaller sized people whose body weight is only 55 kilos to 60 kilos. Lower than this speed, you will not know whether you're on track or not, even after weeks, because your fat loss progress can be easily awashed in daily water weight fluctuations. 2 pounds or 1% of your body weight in a week is the upper speed limit. This translates into about a daily 1000 caloric deficit, and there's a reason why this is generally the highest speed you can lose body fat. Because there is a limit on how much you can reduce your eating. And while a 15 to 20% caloric cut from eating is manageable for most people, when you increase your caloric cut to above 25% or even 30%, most people will feel constantly hungry and unable to carry on their fat loss plans. And a daily 1000 caloric deficit is for sure more than a quarter of most people's caloric intake. Higher than this speed, you will run into the risk of losing muscle mass or binge eating that will set back or even sabotage your entire fat loss plans. Drive according to your own speed limit. That is how fast you should lose body fat. Calculation 3. Daily caloric intake. As a starting point, there is a simple calculation you can use to rough out your daily caloric allowance. Every kilogram of your body weight requires about 40 calories in a day. For example, if my weight is 80 kilos, then my daily allowance is 80 times 40, which is 3200 calories. And if I want to lose a pound of body fat in a week, then I slash 500 calories from my food, which is only about 16% from my daily 3200 calories. Quite manageable for me to achieve that. Now, granted, there are many methods to determine a person's daily caloric intake, and they can be all more accurate than the above calculation. But in practice, because calories in, calories out is a dynamic equilibrium, you can never precisely calculate someone's daily energy expenditure. Therefore, daily caloric intake, no matter how precise it appears to be, can only be used as a starting point, and it is more important to track your daily calories and trial and error for a while. I would strongly recommend that you stringently track your daily calories for a week. No takeaway, no dining. Every meal prepared and cooked by yourself. The lesson you will learn from this week will be an eye-opener to yourself and so valuable to the rest of your life. Calculation 4. Daily protein intake. The recommended daily protein intake has been established both in the medical community and the fitness community for a while. Ideally, 1 gram per pound of body weight. And the reason for this recommendation is multifold. Reason number 1, protein leverage. Human beings will prioritize the consumption of protein in food over other dietary components, and will eat until protein needs have been met, regardless of energy content. Therefore, the more concentrated protein source you include in your nutrition, the less energy you are going to consume. Reason number 2, high satiety per calorie. Skinless chicken breast and white fish are the shining examples of this. They give you tons of satiety and minimum calories. Reason number 3, highest TEF. The body will waste a certain amount of energy from food during digestion. This is called the thematic effect of food, or TEF for short. Fat only costs 3 to 4% of energy during digestion. Carbohydrates, it costs about 10%. But protein, it will cost the body about 25 to 30% of energy during digestion. Therefore, if you increase your protein amount, you will increase the TEF dramatically. Reason number 4, decreased catabolism. A caloric deficit will put your body into catabolic state, and resistance training and sufficient protein will decrease the amount of muscle mass you will lose during fat loss. Now, you can almost make the argument that the ideal daily protein intake is the biggest anchor to securing the success of fat loss. And that's why nowadays, it is almost standard practice for dietitians to establish your daily protein intake amount first, before they even think about how to manipulate your daily calories. Calculation 5. Daily dietary fiber intake. Though not essential like amino acids and fatty acids, the importance of dietary fiber in both fat loss and general health can never be underestimated. Providing high satiety, reducing chronic inflammation, and feeding the gut microbiome, you can almost call dietary fiber as the fourth micronutrient. The guidelines recommend a minimum of 10 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories. But ideally, it's best to aim for twice or even more than the recommended amount. And there's no obvious downside of increasing fiber amount other than gas or frequent bathroom visits. I personally would recommend about 50 grams of dietary fiber per day. And a small tip for you guys who think that only fruits and vegetables are the main source of dietary fiber. The real superstar in this game is actually the beans. They're super rich in dietary fiber, and most of you guys are certainly not eating enough of them. Calculation 6. Distributing caloric deficit between diet and exercise. According to Ted Naiman, ideally you want to evenly distribute your caloric deficit between diet and exercise, 50-50. For example, for a 500 daily caloric deficit, 250 should come from food, and 250 should come from exercising. And for 1,000 daily caloric deficit, 500 should come from food, and 500 should come from exercising. This recommendation is particularly important to people with smaller body size, because sometimes a 500 caloric deficit only from food will mean almost a 30% reduction from their current caloric budget. Not only will it make them feel hungry, but also they may not be able to get sufficient nutrients because of the reduction. In this instance, exercise has to be included to negate the effect of caloric deficit. Even for people with larger body size that can afford bigger caloric cut from food without compromising their nutritional intake, 50-50 even distribution is still very important. It can either create a bigger caloric deficit and accelerate your fat loss progress from the very beginning, or allow you to eat more food when you are deep in your fat loss phase and do not want to further reduce your caloric intake. That's the reason why in last episode I said think cardio training as the counterbalance to caloric deficit. If your fat loss plan is solely hinged on dietary intervention, you will lose your balance very quickly. But if you distribute half of caloric deficit to cardio training, you can maintain the balance of your fat loss plan for a much longer period of time. Alright, a quick summary. As they say, numbers don't lie, but people do. And if you want the most honest fat loss plan, just run all the calculations above and follow the recommendations. As the 6 calculations will auto-regulate all key aspects of fat loss, there's virtually no chance that your fat loss plan is going to fail. All you need to do is draft a realistic plan, reference it with assurance, and execute it with confidence. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next episode. Peace out.